Okay. In one of my columns, I was having like writing about a weird theory that you guys are trying to go back to what the genre was before, like it kind of changed into the theme park corner. Is there something? Is it possibly
That's
true
true.
that you guys are just trying to grab the original ideas of role-playing games and trying to just go a different path now to make something else than what we have in the genre right now?
I agree. I agree completely. And of course, players will have to measure for themselves how successful we will be. But that is absolutely our intention. I find it interesting and useful for us with this game that I would argue that most role-playing games have been built in the model of EverQuest through World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
Um, Very few people have targeted what the Ultima series ever tried to do, or Ultima Online for that matter.
Yeah.
And that left an opening for us to go, bring back what we think was very important and powerful about that type of gaming. You'll notice also there's no exclamation points over people's heads. There's no arrows on the map to point you where you should go. There's no menu-based conversations. There's no quest log that you can click on to get what's my active quest. It's really back to you talk to NPCs by talking to them, by asking them direct questions written out in English or German, and so we think we're getting back to a more pure form of true role playing.
Yeah, even if that means it's from time to time a little bit not as comfortable as some modern MMO would feel, right?
That's exactly right.
Because I personally, I believe that developers have like tried to make game experience as smooth and comfortable as possible, and they have like cut away certain elements, mechanics that were actually important to the game. When I remember Ultima Online, for example, it was the item decay. I was just using a sword, and it would just like gradually decay, which made the sandbox actually, which gave it a sense, because you would need a crafter to repair it, or you need a stock to craft new stuff. Like all the modern MMOs, you keep your item forever. So this means there is no economy. Is this in Shroud of the Avatar? Can we expect like a crafting system that is similar to a sandbox design?
You are exactly correct. In fact, we were in our telethon we had Monday night. We were talking about this exact issue, where people were asking, pardon me, they were saying like, you may have heard us also say that all of the best weapon and almost all the gear in the game is going to come from players, not be created out of the game engine. So when you go fight monsters in the dungeon, where the monsters got their gear is by buying it out of the stores that you sold your stuff to. And so, and every item has permanent history. So if I have a sword and I add some jewels into it, and well, first of all, if I get a sword, it tells me the name of the person that made it. If I add gems into it, or if I kill 100 orcs with it, or whatever you do that gives that sword interest, history, or power, is all recorded on the history of that item. So that item's history is permanent.
Mm-hmm.
And if you ever lose it or sell it, somebody else might find it somewhere in a dungeon. Pardon my voice. I still haven't come back from Monday night. But then they still do wear out. So as your weapon gets better and better, over time, it also will slowly wear out, and so you'll have to spend more and more money to keep it up. And so you'll eventually get to this point where you have a really great weapon, but it costs a lot of money to maintain. And so you'll have to really think about, is it time to retire this weapon and hang it on the wall of my house as the thing that I use to slay 50 dragons? Or, maybe I'll take it down off the wall every now and then whenever I happen to face a dragon, because, well, I really need the Dragon's Bane sword just for this particular battle.
Yeah. That reminds me indeed of Ultima Online, when I always got the fancy stuff from those dragon hunters, and then who were just carrying it around in like any given situation and then losing it. What is the business model actually for Shroud of the Avatar? Since it is like a mix, a genre mix maybe, or a different approach, what business model are you coming up with?
Yeah, it's actually another interesting thing is the business model. The reason why Ultima Online and most all MMOs since are either subscription based, or now there are this free to play model, subscription base was supposed to it was to really help with the fact that you had a large set of servers you had to pay for, and so even if no one was paying or no one was playing, you had ongoing costs month to month to month to month that you had to cover. And so these subscription fees seem like a fair way to do that. Then in free to play, of course, you do that to kind of spread it virally to as many people as possible, and then you ream a few people through a lot of money, and let most people, the casual players, play for free. Well, we one of the things we did with this game is we changed the client server model. In most MMOs, your computer is really just running a client that is a graphical user interface front end, and all of the calculations for the game and combat and AI, etc., runs on the server. Well, what we did is we wanted to be able to play our game offline. To play offline, that means you're not connected to a server, which means we need the server to be in your machine. And so everyone's machine is the client and a server. Once we did that, suddenly we realized that we could begin to offload some of the calculation into the players' machines. And so more like when you get together to play a game of Unreal Tournament where one person's machine is the host, we offload as much of the hosting of issues as possible into players' machines. Now we still have our servers check trades and deaths and gold distribution and things of this nature. But otherwise, everyone's machine is in lockstep, processing the world simultaneously. And as long as everyone agrees, then we don't have to worry about that so much with the server. And so compared to most other MMOs, our servers are very small. Okay. And so we don't really need a subscription to pay for it. And so what we're doing is we're saying, you just buy the game. So just buy the digital download of the game, $45, $50, whatever it might be. And now you have the game forever. And because we obviously don't want to leave money on the table, we do let people do things like buy property and have a house in the game, which by no means do you need. But if you're a player that's going to play for a long time and you want to be able to mount that dragon head and stick it on the wall of your house and that sort of thing, well then sure, then you can buy a house and property and stuff in the game, and that we do charge money for. And you can either pay a chunk of money to get it permanently, or you can pay basically taxes, rent, which does sort of look like a subscription fee. But the point is, you can, as if you wish, to be a long-term property owner, there are other ways we can make money. But there's no, at least as far as we expect, there will never be a subscription fee, so to speak.
That sounds pretty fair, because I believe that some of the publishers who are coming up with games with subscription actually just did it to generate a stable income, because the technical side is not as expensive as it used to be in 1998 or something. But will there be expansions or something?
Yes, so this is episode 1. So Shroud of the Avatar: Forsaken Virtues. So the story of episode 1, which takes place on this large continent of Novia. Then Novia is one continent of New Britannia. That is the story about how the virtues had been forsaken, and you as a returning avatar, can try to make right the world once again. That then will roll over into episode 2, 3, 4, and 5, each of which expand the world by about twice the previous. And those new expansions will be a new sale. When it comes time to buy the new continent, you buy it separately, but you can then walk your character back into the old continent, so they play a sort of a continuous expanding of the world. And it will have a whole new story on the new continent, but some clues or some destinations of the new story will go back into the old continent as well.
So you have the same motivation to build and then develop more parts of the game than a regular MMO publisher has as well, I guess. So we will get to see more of the game. Is it like you guys? You started as a Kickstarter project as well, I believe. there seems to be some kind of a shift change in the industry right now. The big publishers, especially in the MMO genre, big publishers have problems to just deliver what people expect, and then obviously there are a lot of Kickstarter games right now getting financed. Do you see that there is a change? Do we actually still need the big publishers in the genre?
Well, I think that we do need the big publishers. So what the big publishers do well is sales, marketing, and distribution. Mm-hmm. And so if you are creating the sequel to an existing mega property, then the big publishers are great. They can provide the financing to a much higher level, and they can match that with distribution to justify that level of investment. And so when you're doing Grand Theft Auto 10, 20, 30, those still are great vehicles to reach the widest audience. However, what the big publishers are not good at doing is innovation. And so when you've seen like a whole bunch of failed MMOs of late, a lot of these big, $100 million games from big publishers were, attempts to compete with, World of Warcraft or whatever else, that looked good, were well financed, but were not innovative. They were really kind of just developing into the same mold as everybody else.
Yeah.
And guess what? No surprise, users don't want something that just has a new title on it that plays the same as the other games their friends and everybody else already inside of. And so if you want to do something that's innovative at all or different than the sequel to the current thing that's out there, bigger publishers are having a harder time doing it. They have a hard time recognizing it. They're just not good at understanding, evolution in the marketplace. And that's often better done by smaller or independent studios. And so that's, I think, where Kickstarter's coming in. And I think, Kickstarter, not just in games, but across the board, these crowdfunded projects, tend to have, one or both of these two aspects I'm about to describe to be particularly successful. One is, it's got to be something that's so radically different or new, that it's like your childhood dream that, hover cars might exist or something. It really has to capture the imagination of what people imagined should have been possible in the 21st century. And, isn't it cool that somebody's doing it now? And the other one is this sense of nostalgia. This is things that the market has drifted away from or abandoned or forgotten or, because everything's become too cookie cutter has missed that is at the core and the heart of what really actually makes quality products. And even better is if you can do both those things at once. So if you can both bring back in the depth and the quality that some of this bells and whistles chasing has left behind, that's good. And then if you can also provide kind of a new step into the future, that's good. And so we think that we're both bringing back a lot of storytelling and sandbox depth that is the nostalgic part, but we're also providing this very new kind of game. When you ask us, are we a solo player game or a massively multiplayer game? The answer is we're a selectively multiplayer game, meaning the game, you can throttle it up and down, and the game system on its own occasionally throttles up and down based upon how it wants to do storytelling to you. And so it's neither a traditional MMO nor is it a traditional solo player game. It's a new kind of beast that I think is an important step for game engines going forward.
Yeah, that's nice. While in the meantime, the big publishers are even calling games like World of Tanks an MMO or something, and giving them prizes for that. Do you have like an estimation, like a number or something, how large the German involvement is in the whole project? Did you get some German backers as well, or is this basically an American thing?
No. We have a lot of German backers. In fact, Germany is, for our Shroud of the Avatar site, I believe Germany is our number 2 market after the United States. Interestingly, on Steam, very surprisingly, Russia has shown up as a fairly big spike.
Yeah.
very unexpectedly.
Yeah.
But Germany is easily the most